Okay, so influencer culture might not be over in the literal sense, but it is definitely in an identity crisis. More and more influencers are openly questioning why their audience isn't connecting with them anymore, while at the same time continuing to post content that centers around their over the top wealth, excessive spending, and unobtainable lifestyles on loop. Lavish hauls, luxury trips, designer, everything. And then they're confused as to why their engagement drops. The version of influencer culture that we are currently seeing unravel is very different from the one that originally took off. What started out as relatability, even accessibility to a degree, and people just like us slowly shifted into something much more distant, out of touch, and quite frankly, downright dystopian at times. I was thinking about this after I came across a TikTok from a very well known beauty influencer, genuinely confused about why her views were suddenly so low. Even when her comments were telling her the reason, she deflected and basically did not want to hear it. So today I want to discuss what we are seeing slowly happen to influencer culture and why, at least I don't think that this shift came out of nowhere. Why these creators who built their platform off of connection are now struggling to understand why that connection feels broken. But before we get into that, you know the drill. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get right into it. Okay, so I have been wanting to make a video just about influencer culture and kind of just how it's really changed over the years, but I just didn't know where to start with it. But that changed after I came across a recent TikTok from Jaclyn Hill, and it felt like the perfect jumping off point for this conversation. And if you're not familiar with who Jaclyn is, she is one of the original YouTubers in the beauty space. She's been on the platform since the early days, played a huge role in shaping the beauty community as we know it, and has managed to stay relevant in one form or another ever since.
I want to talk about something that I feel like maybe is a little controversial, maybe not, but I feel like no one really talks about it on social media. At least I don't see this conversation being had. But I think about this every day. And this is coming from like an old school beauty content creator. I started on YouTube 14 years ago. Like that is insane. I have been here for every single era, consistently uploading, downloading every new platform, like watch the birth of TikTok. You know, like I remember when Instagram became a thing, I was already on YouTube when Instagram became a thing. I downloaded Instagram and like it was like this new app and we were posting the square photos. Like I've been here for all of it. And I feel like we are in such a weird place on social media as content creators where I am like fighting. I feel like I am like trying to run through mud to connect with my followers at this point. I feel like there are so many bots and I feel like these apps are now controlling who views my videos. And I feel like I get punished and penalized for not showing up and creating all the time. In the sense of I took off, like I didn't post a TikTok, I think for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe like, sorry, life happens. I've been doing this for 14 years. Maybe I'm a little burnt out, God forbid. But then I come back to TikTok and it's like I'm put in like this TikTok jail where my views are complete. No one is seeing, like, it's one thing if my engagement is shit, meaning like maybe my views are high, but my comments are low and the likes are low. It's like, okay, so my audience wasn't feeling the vibes of this video. That's fine. But I'm talking like when you have a million followers, but your videos are only getting 30,000 views, this is just not the way it used to be. Like when I started, it was so organic. Like you subscribed to the people that you liked, you opened up those apps, or you got a notification on your phone saying so and so just posted a video, you go, you engage with it. And like it was that simple. Now it's like, I put videos out there and sometimes I just feel like I'm talking to myself. I'm like, where is my audience? And it's just, I feel like my audience is really on Instagram stories. Like my girls are there for me on Instagram stories. Like I really know who I'm talking to over there. But I miss the days of knowing who I'm posting my content for. And I'm just like, how do like these new creators grow at this point? Like, do the new creators out there, do you guys feel like you're connecting with an audience, or do you just feel like you're kind of throwing your videos out into cyberspace and like hoping that it's gonna stick? Like, I don't know. And like my comments, like I'll post a video and within 10 seconds, I'll get like 15 comments and they're all slightly the same. And I'm like, okay, so like these are like bot comments, like these aren't really my followers. Like I don't care about that. I'm at the point in my life and in my career where like I only want to post for my girls, like the ones that I've built this relationship and this trust with. But like TikTok isn't even showing my stuff to those people. So I'm like, I don't know. It's like these apps control who sees our stuff, and like the audience that we worked hard to build isn't even ours. It's owned by these apps, and we just have to like hope and pray that after posting our content, these apps are going to choose to show our content to our audience who chose to follow us in the first place. I'm just so confused, and I don't see a lot of people having this conversation. This will probably put me in TikTok jail for like the next 6 months. So if you see me, Hi, I love you and I miss you. And that's it.
So, yeah, Jacqueline's immediate instinct is to blame the algorithm, which honestly makes sense. I'm sure it's a much easier explanation to accept. It removes any need for self reflection. It's not you, it's not your content. People still want to watch you. You're just being punished by the app for taking a break, shadow banned, stuck in some imaginary TikTok jail. And to be fair, I don't fully, I'm not going to say that I understand how the algorithm on TikTok works for creators, but in Jacqueline's case, her audience was actually very, very clear. They gave her direct answers as to why they weren't watching her content. Feedback was there, the reasons were there, but Jacqueline just didn't really want to accept it. So, for example, one person said, "Personally, I feel like you guys live in a dystopia. I'm wondering how I'm going to financially recover from trying to give my kids a Christmas. Meanwhile, you guys are moving to LA, buying handbags that are more than my mortgage." So I scroll past now, which, I mean, that's very, very valid. I get that. I totally understand that. But Jacqueline said, moving to LA and buying handbags proves that you see what you want because I also do giveaways all the time, like extremely affordable items, dupes, etc. on the daily basis. Which to me is kind of a strange response. And also, it just goes to show that she doesn't really want to hear the valid criticism. Even though she asked, why are what's the reason? What's going on? Also, I think it's kind of strange that just because she does giveaways, she thinks that means that people should stick around to watch her basically flaunt her wealth. I don't know. But that was basically what a lot of the comments were saying. We're tired of watching influencers rub their wealth in our faces. Someone else said, reading the comments, I would agree. Influencers have become unrelatable in the current economic climate. I'm kind of burned out on being influenced to buy, buy, buy. I want reviews on books and affordable experiences. This person said, honey, I've been working 40 to 48 hours weekly for 16 years in South Orange County and supported numerous collabs of yours. We are tired and burnt out. Influencers live in a different reality called dystopia. Because again, that's just another way that Jacqueline is being unrelatable. She's saying, I mean, goodness, I've been working this whole entire time. I'm so burnt out. I'm so this, I'm so that. But it's like, Jacqueline, you're an influencer. Your work is not the same as your followers. That woman said she works 40 to 48 hours a week. I think the reality is if Jacqueline actually calculated the hours that she was working, it would be nowhere near that. So to go and be like, "Oh, I'm burnt out, so I'm taking a break," while also posting things like she doesn't know what day of the week it is, how crazy that is. It's like, yeah, we can't relate to that anymore, Jacqueline. We never could. Even though I didn't really follow Jacqueline, I can definitely relate to a lot of these comments because, I've seen this pattern before. I don't really follow influencers anymore, but back in the early 2010s, is that what we call it? I don't know. But I'm basically talking around the 2013 timeframe. There were creators that I would tune into consistently, and the main reason was relatability. They were showing outfit ideas from stores I could actually shop at in my own town. Easy everyday makeup looks using drugstore products. Everything felt accessible. This was during a time when I was in my late teens, early 20s, basically newly into adulthood. I was just trying to figure things out. And so a lot of that content felt really useful. They'd post office friendly outfits on a budget and then show us how to turn that same look into something you could wear out at night with a simple smoky eye from a Maybelline palette, a faux leather jacket, and you were set. It felt aspirational, but more in a grounded way. It was realistic, and honestly, it was a time. But the issue is that a lot of these influencers, they're just not evolving with their audience. There's absolutely nothing wrong with someone like Jacqueline being able to afford luxury products, take expensive trips, live a comfortable, even lavish life. Move to California, run in the influencer and celebrity circles. She earned that lifestyle. But if the goal is still connection, and by connection, she obviously means engagement. But if you still want that connection with your audience, then you have to acknowledge the disconnect that naturally forms when your life becomes unrecognizable to the people who help build you. At some point, you have to read the room. Her audience's priorities has changed. It's no longer about which bronzer is best for a night out at the club. She got older and so did the people growing up watching her. Many of them now work 9 to 5, some have kids, most have bills they're struggling to keep up with. A lot of them aren't even sure how they're going to make the holidays work this year. So when the content becomes post after post of wealth on display, again, something that Jacqueline and any of these creators, they're fully entitled to do. It just shouldn't be all that surprising when people quietly stop watching the content because that lifestyle, it's just not relatable to the average person now. For most people, it's completely unattainable. And that gap between creator and the audience is exactly where the connection starts to break down. And while I was putting this video together, Jaclyn actually posted a follow up saying that she's been reading the comments and that she's genuinely open to hearing what her audience wants to see from her going forward. So, hopefully, for her sake, she really does take into consideration what her audience, what her fans are wanting to see. At the same time, though, I feel like the shift in how her audience feels, the frustration, the disconnect, it really shouldn't come out of left field for her. This isn't some sudden random change. The conversation about people being tired of influencer culture, tired of excess, tired of the same tone deaf content has been happening for a while now. The signs have been there. A lot of, this influencer content, influencer culture, it feels dystopian in its own way, but nothing highlights it quite like an influencer complaining about making thousands of dollars off of their content.
There's not as much money in social media as I think there was. Like my video that did 14 million views only paid me $4,000.
Which I know that everybody in these,
Was yeah,
video
y'all may
comments
be
are,
like, wow, that's amazing, but
that's
it
a
was over a
lot.
minute long. That video took like an hour to do. It's just like,
Well, here, every I
and we
saw a
only
video,
have that's like once in a blue moon something goes that viral. So
but
like,
even if it
you
went that
expect when
viral,
yeah.
you have to explain to
An hour, guys. It took him an hour and he only got paid $4,000. Like, we should really have a moment of silence for him. Anyway, I just want to highlight that, our teachers here in the US at least on average make between $4,300 to $5,300 a month teaching the next generation. And a lot of them have to work second jobs to even live. And yet we have this dip complaining about making $4,000 for 1 hour of work. I don't even know who these people are. I found this clip when I was scrolling, trying to do research for this video, and I was disgusted. Again, who can relate to these people anymore? They are so far removed from the reality that so many people, especially the people who are watching them, are facing. That he actually said that and had the audacity to complain about that, and he thought that we would feel bad for him. Vile behavior. But I don't know about you, but personally, I think one of the most unsettling parts of influencer cultures is when creators start to genuinely act as if they're more important than everybody else, as if their content, their experience, as if their perspective should take priority over real world harm. Like when they insert themselves into a natural disaster, for example. We're warned about these things well in advance. Meteorologists track storms for days to even weeks. Evacuation orders are issued. Communities prepare for impact. And yet, without fail, there's always influencers who see impending disasters not as a serious emergency, but as an opportunity for content. Because that makes sense. That's what the average person would do, right? Most recently, this happened with the devastating hurricane that hit Jamaica this past October. Again, despite widespread warnings and growing concern about how severe this hurricane was going to be, a TikTok influencer named Hannah chose to travel there anyway, fully aware of what was coming, making it all about her. Yeah, that got deleted. That's why I had to, someone else saved it. But I don't know, something like that to me is where influencer culture goes from, it shifts from being out of touch to actually dangerous because a real life emergency became the backdrop for this TikTok creator's content. Because Hannah, the creator, ended up making a ton of content around the hurricane, and pretty quickly after, people started calling her out, which rightfully so. After that, of course, she turned off her comments and has barely posted since. But the real problem here isn't just Hannah specifically, it's the larger pattern we keep seeing with influencers who treat these real life emergencies like content opportunities. When you're willingly putting yourself in the middle of a natural disaster for views, you're not just being reckless, but you're taking away resources from people who actually live in these areas that are getting affected. Hotel staff had to spend time boarding up Hannah's windows instead of being able to go secure their own homes or check in on their own families. Emergency services are already stretched thin in those situations, and every unnecessary person added into the mix, they just make things worse. For Hannah and her friend, this was just an experience for them. It was a content moment. And once that was over, they were able to, safely fly back to their home that was standing and, safe and warm and everything was perfect for them. They move on to the next content idea, the next TikTok they hope to go viral. The people who actually live in Jamaica, they didn't get to do that. Their homes were destroyed, their communities were hit really, really hard. Their lives were disrupted in ways that it's going to take years to recover from. But this is exactly what people are talking about when they say that influencer culture seems dystopian. It's not just out of touch, it's a complete disconnect from reality, and it's something audiences are getting really tired of watching, myself included. But circling back to the whole relatability conversation, this is something we've actually talked about a little bit on my channel. Specifically, when we did that video on Hub's life, if you remember, he built his following because people genuinely related to him. He worked a 9 to 5 and showed that a regular, stable life is not only okay, it's something to be proud of. A steady job, benefits, insurance, that kind of security that is a really good thing. And for a lot of people, that was refreshing to see. It was comforting to see someone on TikTok just living an average life and being content with it. But then he flipped the switch. He quit his job, became a full time, stay at home dad influencer, and seemed genuinely confused when people were upset. And of course, he just said that they're haters, when in reality, it was his core audience saying, hey, this isn't what you built your platform on. He had always said he didn't want to leave the 9 to 5 life. He positioned it as something good, something to aspire to. So, from the audience's perspective, it felt like a bait and switch. Again, people followed him for his office content, for the routine, for the normalcy. They didn't sign up to follow another full time influencer. We already got the solo dad for that. Although I think he's aspiring still. But when that shift did happen with the Hub's life, the relatability that drew people in the first place, it was gone. And again, all of Hub's life audiences' reactions were valid. We see this happen over and over again with influencers. They grow by doing something that is relatable. And then when the money starts rolling in, they completely pivot their content and their lifestyle altogether. We saw it with Avery Woods and Alyssa Fluellen when they grew on Nurse Talk. People followed for one very specific reason: the real life job, the day to day grind. And then suddenly that foundation disappeared, which for Alyssa and Avery was them working as nurses, balancing that type of challenging job with motherhood and daily life. And to be clear, I kind of touched on this earlier, influencers, anyone has the right to grow, to change and evolve their content. No one's saying that you have to stay the same forever. But what doesn't make sense is acting shocked or labeling it as hate when the very audience you built your platform on leaves because the thing that they related to no longer exists. When the entire appeal of a channel, of a TikTok account, of an influencer changes, the audience is going to change too. And then there's something that we see, over and over again with influencers. Once they reach a certain level, they seem to forget what normal life is actually like. You know what I'm talking about? The ones that post like, oh, I'm so busy today. I have to go to Target. I have to, get the house ready for the cleaners. And I have to work on this brand deal.
Get in, Bessies. We're going to run some errands today. So y'all know Em and I leave for the Hamptons tomorrow morning. I have to be out of the house in an Uber at 6 a.m. So I got a lot of shit to do today. On the agenda, I need to, first of all, eat. I'm fucking starving. I need to return a bunch of stuff from Amazon that just didn't work out. I need to go to Target and get some like refillable travel things. I would also like to try to work out because I really want to go to the gym. I need to get a pedicure. And I think that's it. First though, when I walked out of my house, all of this was waiting for me on my front porch and I want to open it.
For them, that's a hectic, grueling day. Meanwhile, most of these creators have more than enough money to have outsourced almost every aspect of their lives. Nannies, cleaners, assistants, more often than not, their spouses don't even work outside the home, if at all, because they just help with the business side of their influencer spouse's social media. So again, their definition of busy, not relatable. And it's almost impressive how hard that they try to be quirky and relatable, only for it to come off as just painfully tone deaf, like crying over not getting invited to a brand trip or not getting a PR package that they thought they were going to get to, as if that is supposed to register as a real person problem to their audience.
So many good brands here, right? What else did you?
I don't know. I was like expecting to see it.
That was the big yellow box?
Yeah, am I like out of pocket?
Oh my god, you guys, I just opened a bunch of free stuff and I'm literally shaking. No, because they didn't even send me the 24 karat Labubu Sydney Sweeney Crumble Cookies sunscreen. You guys will never understand how hard it is to be a micro influencer.
Yeah, I don't know who that influencer was. Obviously, she deleted that video and that guy reacted to it. I'm glad he did. Super funny. But yeah, again, I think she thought that was a cute moment. Like she was just being quirky. Like, what'd she say? Am I out of pocket? No, you're crazy for crying because you didn't get a PR package. You didn't get a free item from a brand and you're crying about it. And then your husband is filming you and you probably asked him to film you so that you could make that into content and hope that the brand would send you the thing that you wanted that they didn't send you. Guess that didn't work out for you since I went to your account and it's not there, but again, just not relatable. When putting this video together, I did find another angle, specifically relating to Jaclyn Hill, but just influencers in general that I thought was worth looking into, worth exploring, and just giving a different side to consider.
I fear I have something to say, and some people might not agree with me, and that's totally fine. But I keep seeing videos of people saying that they no longer like Jaclyn Hill because she's no longer relatable. I've also seen it about Avery Woods and a couple other big influencers that I personally watch. And my question is, why do you want to watch somebody that's relatable? I don't want to watch somebody that has the same life as me, the same finance as me, the same stability as me, because that doesn't allow me any room to grow or level up in life. It doesn't allow me to look at somebody and aspire to have their life. Does that make sense? Like, I have my own drive, my own motivation, but it's nice to get onto social media and see somebody who is, unrelatable that I can push myself to reach, if that makes sense. And I'm also a Jaclyn Hill stan, have been for years, so really maybe that's why it upsets me. But it's just like, it's okay to have relatable influencers, but like the big ones, the Jaclyn Hills, the Avery Woods, the Kardashians, the Jenners, the people like that, they're not meant to be relatable. They're not here for you to relate to. They're here for you to aspire to. Does that make sense? I also can't really imagine getting on social media and just like somebody that you don't personally know. But that's my own 2 cents. Another another side note to that, I don't think anybody who has come into any form of success, whether it be big or small, is as relatable as they used to be. If I look at my life 10 years ago, I am nowhere near as relatable as I used to be. Like, truly, not even close. So I just think it's like one of those things, like, if you don't like these people because they're not relatable, that's fine. But is it necessary to come online and talk shit about? I don't think so. I don't know.
So I do get where she's coming from to a degree, but here's where I differ. From what I saw, there really weren't any outright hateful videos that at least that I saw being made about Jaclyn. When an audience points out that they're over a certain type of content, I don't think that's hate. I think it's more feedback. I mean, I'm sure that maybe there was some hate sprinkled in. I just wasn't seeing it, at least on TikTok. But again, this is something that we see a lot with creators, like I talked about earlier, like Hub's Life. Any type of constructive criticism is often labeled as hate, which really just dismisses a valid concern from the people who have supported them since the start. Feedback that, if was taken to heart, could actually be incredibly useful for a creator trying to stay relevant and connected. I personally think that when creators choose to ignore the feedback that they're getting, genuine feedback, not hate, I mean the genuine, like what Jaclyn is getting. And I don't think that she's not ignoring it now. She is saying that she's open to it. But in general, I think that when they ignore it and they dismiss it, it's really only going to continue to negatively impact their social media. Because likely what's going to happen is that more and more their audience is going to keep dropping off like flies, and it's going to be a lot harder to build that bridge back to connection if that's really what the influencer wants. Of course, people grow and evolve. That's natural, it's expected. But the problem isn't that creators are changing. The problem is that so few of these creators remain relatable at all. It's not just about someone shifting into parenting content while some of their audience isn't interested. Like that kind of thing. That would be fine. The bigger question is, who can genuinely relate to these content creators anymore? Their lifestyles, their wealth, their trips, the luxury products, these things are increasingly unattainable for the average viewer. And when the relatability disappears, the connection that built their following in the first place starts to unravel. And here's another side that I saw when, doing my research on this video. I like to show all different sides so that we can have a well-rounded, conversation.
There's the true out of touch influencer that it's sad because they started off relatable and then they got all of the success and the money and then lost it. But there is also, and a lot of people need to understand this, some influencers that were never in touch to begin with. A lot of influencers were rich to begin with. They had the resources to film vlogs. They had the resources to travel. They had the resources to buy the expensive luxury products before they were making their own money. And I think now some people are like, you're so out of touch now. And it's like, babes, they got famous off a Louis Vuitton haul.
Yeah.
They were never in touch to begin with.
I don't think that's an out of touch creator. I think that's an out of touch person.
So in the comments on that clip, I noticed a lot of people bringing up Alex Earl. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about her. I did just watch all of Dancing with the Stars, but I still don't know much about her. But from what I did see, she was never really relatable in the traditional sense. And I think that was kind of the point. She never pretended to be the average person or live a completely grounded, normal life. That said, she's figured out how to pivot and maintain a connection with her audience, even if it's not the relatable angle that most creators started out with. For example, her time on Dancing with the Stars, it wasn't just a publicity stunt. It required effort, discipline, and a different kind of visibility. It introduced her to a whole new audience and gave people a chance to see a side of her beyond TikTok. And from what I can tell, she found ways to relate to her followers in a way that works for her personality and lifestyle, even if they aren't things that the average person could replicate. That's what sets creators like her apart, in my opinion. She's not the norm. Most creators, they built their brand on their relatability. And when they pivot away from that relatability, it can feel like a betrayal to their audience. Alex, on the other hand, has maintained a certain genuineness, a chaotic energy, a personality that hasn't shifted from when she first went viral. People still enjoy her, not because they can do what she does necessarily, but because they feel like they understand her. And balancing that authenticity with a lifestyle that isn't typical is a hard line to walk, one that most creators clearly struggle with. And again, when a creator's core audience, the people who have been there since the early days, is saying, hey, this is why we're tuning out, maybe it's time to listen. Especially right now, we're in a time where so many people are struggling to afford the necessities, the basic childcare, healthcare, food, all of that. People are stretched thin. And so when influencers are posting trip after trip, haul after haul, while also complaining about how busy and overwhelmed they are, all again while making more money in a month than what most people will see in a year or even a lifetime. That kind of content, it just doesn't land the same way anymore. That disconnect is impossible to ignore. I already said this earlier, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but influencers are absolutely allowed to live their own life the way that they want to. They can spend their money how they want, they can post whatever type of content that they want. But what they can't do is expect that same level of admiration, engagement, and loyalty when their audience just no longer feels connected to them. And then they also, at least, they can do whatever they want, but they really shouldn't go and label that disengagement as hate, especially not when they are directly asking their followers, what's up, guys? At that point, it's not hate, it's honesty, and whether they choose to take that honesty seriously or not, that's what's going to determine whether that connection can be rebuilt or if it's just never going to come back. At the end of the day, none of this is about hating influencers. It's about a very real shift in how people are consuming content and what they're willing to engage with anymore. Influencer culture was built on connection, accessibility, and relatability, on the idea that these were just regular people sharing parts of their real lives. Somewhere along the way, though, for a lot of creators, that got replaced with excess, detachment, and a level of privilege that most people watching simply cannot relate to anymore. I don't think that we're witnessing the end of influencer culture, but I do think that a reset is happening. I think that the creators who survive this reset on TikTok, on all social media platforms, are the ones that understand that connection still matters. Self-awareness still matters. And that the respect for your audience, it's not optional. The ones who are unable to, take a step back, read the room, I guess they're just going to have to continue to blame the algorithm and call it all hate. But with all of that being said, I think that's going to be it for today. Let me know what you think about all of this. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, the hype button, all the buttons, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.